Good evening, Danvers. Good afternoon, Danvers. Good morning, Danvers. Whenever this show is showing. Welcome to the topics of the town news. And today I have my other favorite contestant, Jim Morose. So welcome again, and I want to make sure that the agenda and the opinions are solely by the topics of the town host, our guests, contributors, and commentators. Today, we were going to have two other guests. However, they have been detained, whether it's in Watch the turkey. There you go. The turkey is missing. We were supposed to have Damien Anketel, and I wanted Damien to provide us with independent evaluation of what's going on with the elections. He's not a town resident. He's a Peabody resident. However, it is important that we discuss this because elections are 2 weeks away. So, but instead of Damien, we got Jim Morose. And Jim and I have worked our shows all along for many, many years. And we've always collaborated. So, Jim, what would you like to say in the introduction?
As part of the introduction, I'd like to say that I'm totally ill-prepared. I didn't read anything that Mark has written. I got it right here on my phone, and I'm scanning it as we start, because I thought that Damien and Tony were going to be here, and I was just going to kind of go along for the ride. But that's not happening. But there is a lot of stuff happening. Like Mark said, we got the elections coming, and we got 7 people running for the 2 selectmen seats, and it's just politics as usual in Danvers. Ought to be fun.
Well, that's another reason that we wanted to get this show on the road because next week is vacation week for the kids. So a lot of the parents are going to be off to the Caribbean or Hawaii or, someplace in this world. But Tony is taking care of the grandkids, so that's more important than any show or anything that we're doing. However, we will do this show without Tony, and he's going to be missed.
Yes, he will.
When someone tells me no, it doesn't mean I can't do it. It simply means I can't do it with them. This is a quote that I explored for a while. This is by Karen Quinones Miller, and her career as a journalist is a testament to her tenacity and the belief that no was never the final word. And I believe that Jim and I are also encountering the same issue. No is not the answer. It is always the first answer, but then they have to be convinced to come along onto our side. So, Jim, I have another quote in here, and this one is more appropriate to everything that's going on with our town. No conflict can be solved so long as all parties are convinced they are right. And that is so true. Solution is possible only when at least one party begins to consider how he or she might be wrong.
That's an excellent. I like that a lot.
Well, that
Very
one
good.
is so appropriate because we get stuck on our own issues and our own positions, and we never want to go the other way a little bit.
Well, it's funny you say that because, PragerU put out a video, and I know the title isn't the best title in the world. They could have named it something else. Is Why Do I Hate Conservatives? So I put that out there on Facebook because I had to make a point of, all the woke situations that just keep propagating themselves. We hear them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the national, federal, state, local level. It's all woke or go broke. It's like, but we hear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so we know what this whole woke agenda is and what's good about it, what's bad about it, and the woke people only focus on the good stuff. They fail to look at what's wrong with it, and the Trump what do you call it, administration is pointing out the errors of the DEI ways, okay, and so didn't that video, which I got slammed. You're using hates in the title. You're a hater.
Well,
but they couldn't even watch the video. It's like, hello, people, try to understand. Conservatives and normal people, we're not crazy. We're not stupid. We have these opinions and values because they're tried and true. That's why we're conserving what's good and throwing out what's bad.
Well, just to continue on that thread, DEI in this town remains to be a management spot in our budget. DEI has been eliminated or disowned by federal and some state agencies because the federal is pulling the money back. So everything is, like you said, the woke are awake and they're not realizing what's really happening. We as a town and our management needs to eliminate DEI because it is counterproductive.
Well, see, I mean, that's the thing. You can't, it's not one big blanket of DEI. There's a lot of good things in DEI. We want to, be diverse and inclusive and have equity and equal opportunity for everyone. But we've already got programs that do that. When you go deeper into the DEI, then it turns into, I forget what they call it. It's like
it's reverse discrimination,
white privilege, and all this other.
That's right.
So you can discriminate against certain people, and then you're given jobs not based on merit, but based on characteristics that no one has any control over, like your race, color, creed, and all this other stuff, but not the merit. Can you do the job? That's right. Can you do the job?
Well, the thing that I'm very concerned about, and I'll get into my third quote here in a moment, but just to complete the thought process on this DEI is we on the show have called for the elimination of DEI from this town organization, and we've been calling for that for the last 6 or 8 months because it all started back in October, November. Now, what has happened is that there are people objecting to this, which is fine. Let's talk about it. The thing is, they don't have any good reasons for keeping it because it is not functioning what it was intended to be. So, I have a third quote. Taking responsibility, even for a small part of the problem, is communication. Presents the opportunity to great repair. It's highly effective. So let's communicate back and forth between the establishment, and we cannot allow some of these issues to be delayed from being either implemented or eliminated because we don't have a town manager. That is such an excuse that the current Board of Selectmen are using to deflect any decisions. They are the ones that represent you and I and the rest of the community, and they don't have the courage to make a stand on anything.
Well, you're exactly correct. The selectmen are elected to implement the policies that make Danvers Danvers, and the town manager is to implement what the policies are. That's how it's supposed to work. The town manager has no, authority to do anything on his own other than manage the day-to-day business of what the direction from the selectmen are. Am I right or wrong here?
You are absolutely right. However, the the select board, including our select woman, have delegated for some reason the authority for making policy decisions to the last town manager, and now the new town manager. They're waiting for decisions to be made by somebody that hasn't been in this town ever before.
Exactly. And again, it all goes back to, I think this has been a current theme through all the elections, that the town is always run by 3 votes. You need 3 votes. So, they can take one person or two person that wants to make changes, but they can't have a third. And that's what this election is going to be about. Between Dan Bennett and Gardner Trask, those are the establishment people. Those are the ones that brought Danvers to this brink where we are right now. Between the excessive building, traffic, all this mess that you see, that's on there. They not only put it in their policies, they cheerleaded for it. They wanted it. And even Billy Bates got up at one of the meetings and said, when they were approving the 61 High Street, this is exactly what we want. We want our people to build these big buildings like this. This is what our zoning is for. So down all the way down High Street is going to look just like it does on that corner.
Well,
and it's going to be piecemeal because this guy's just doing 1 or 2 lots at 61 High Street. Lord knows what it's all going to look like. It's going to be, interesting.
It's going to look like Grantoul Street in Beverly. That's exactly. It's a high rise, and they're going up to 4 or 5 stories high, and it's going to become a wind tunnel down by the old fire station, coming all the way down to the square. But
increased density, decreased parking requirements. What could go wrong?
Where are we going to get people to fill those 147 units that are available?
It's like
right
the
now?
Field of Dreams. It's the Field of Nightmares. You build it, they'll come.
Well, I have said in the past that we're building all of this apartment and condos for the illegal immigrants, because that's what the governor wants to do.
Yep.
He wants to spread out
Yep.
all of the population throughout the North Shore.
Well, I heard a good little commentary on this, and it said that the American dream is to buy your piece of America. You buy a lot, you put a house on it, and that's your kingdom. And that's the American dream, and that's what the suburbs were all about. They don't want us to live in these big cities with all the crime and chaos and people living on top of each other. Yeah, there's all the culture and everything is there, but no. So now Danvers used to be a rural community. Now it's not. It's a quasi-city with all the city problems, and it's getting bigger and worse by the minute. So that's all I can say. And again, who brought us to this point? We have constant water bans. You can't. The state says you can't stop people from building. Well, yeah, we can't stop people from building, but we can build zoning to reflect what Danvers is.
To control it somehow.
To reflect what our infrastructure can stand. And oh, by the way, they call it smart zoning. This is smart zoning. Well, if it's so smart, what is the ideal metric? There should be a metric. If you have so many square miles in your town, what should be the proper density and mix of residents and commercial and business and this and that, manufacturing? There should be some kind of metric. But no, there is nothing like that. It's just build, build, build. What is the metric?
There is somebody's judgment call that works for the planning department or the town manager's office, because they are on the strings of manipulation by the Massachusetts governor, and that's where everything is happening. And now we have an assistant or a lieutenant governor who came out of Salem, and that's exactly what's happening in Salem.
Right.
They are going to become another Rantoul Street along the main drag in
And
Salem.
you are correct to keep saying, Danvers will be Rantoul Street, because this zoning, it's not smart zoning, it's one size fits all.
Right.
And so that size is Rantoul Street.
Well, what we need to do is we need to advise the general public that there are 3 warrant articles,
Oh, yes.
which are, what do we call them? Public options or
Well, just zoning
zoning articles.
zoning articles.
And they're going to be discussed not next week, but the week after that. And I know that I've been roped into talking to one of them, and they love me because I bring in these public opinion questions. And the thing is, there are 3 of them this time.
Yeah.
And we need to discuss it. We need to put it on the table.
Yeah.
So, now that we've announced that, so look forward to it. What I want to do is continue is on the select board race. We need new blood to focus on solutions and not on excuses. This was a saying that I've been using for the last 3 shows, and all the last 3 shows basically were to expose and present the qualifications that put the face on the camera of who these candidates are. We have 7 candidates for 2 seats, and the 2 seats that are being replaced is an incumbent seat by Dan Bennett, and he's running. David Mills finally said enough is enough, and he's giving the seat up for a new person with some new ideas. And David and I have spoken about this many times. He was saying, maybe you should run. I said, no, thank you. I've had enough. I did my stint. So, ballot placement for the candidates, when you see the ballot, you're going to have Mrs. Fiore, Sandy Franceschini, Mike Baxter, Mark Lantini, Dan Bennett is number 5, Mr. Kevin Barish is number 6, and Gardner Trask is number 7. Now, Gardner is a repeat performer. He spent, 16 years before on the board. And last year, he was voted out, but he wants to come back. And it's a choice that the people are going to have to make. And the thing is that we are not going to identify our selection because it's unfair. Mm-hmm. They all have participated in our show, on my show, and your show as well, because we had the presentations by the 6 candidates on this show, and we had long discussions on that. And you had a forum that was held at the library, and that forum included 5 of the 7 candidates, because that forum was meant for new candidates for the Board of Selectmen seat.
Right.
That went off very well, and you want to...
Yeah, I'll jump in on that, because every year for the last 5, 10 years. I mean, who was that guy? Jimmy the Greek had his used to put out his picks there. So I'm Jimmy the Pollock, I guess. People always say, "Who should we vote for? Who should we vote for, Jim?" And so I usually get a sample ballot and I fill out this is who I'm voting for. So people take that and go with it. And
you can do.
But I will say this, because I am a people person and I've been talking to people on the street and I'm I'm just one guy, so it doesn't matter what I say. But when you listen to what people say about the candidates, one of the things that I kept hearing was, to your point, solutions or excuses. Who's part of the machine? Who's part of the problem? Let's just talk about Gardner. You know what? The town ran for a whole year without him. Did it go any better or worse? Heck no. It's just going. And so how can we miss him if he won't go away? He's coming back. But he's the establishment, and Dan Bennett's the establishment. They've been in there too long. And then you look at, like, Natalie. She's an elected trustee, and she's been appointed to a couple of boards there. She's on the board. So she's an insider. And Mark Lentini, he's appointed, and Lord knows what else he's been doing. So he's, they're part of the machine. And then you look at Mike Baxter. I don't even know where he came from. I mean, all of a sudden, I want to run for selectman. I mean, I talked to him, while he was getting on. I said, we're watering down the vote here, people. And he said, no, that's okay. And I did talk to Mark and Natalie about the same thing during the same time, even though and they said, no. So we've got 7 people running for 2 seats, and the vote's going to be watered down by those 5 people. And if it gets watered down too much, then these 2 machine people are going to come right back in. And not only will nothing change, it's just going to keep getting worse, okay? So take your pick.
So,
people said the best, I like the 2 signs of Berich and Sandy, Franceschini. That's
well, Sandy ran for a statewide position 2 years ago, I believe.
Well, actually, no, it was 2024. March 2024.
And Kevin is he's a federal employee, so he knows the drill of what happens. The thing is that with 5 new candidates, and 2 establishment candidates, it's a real toss-up. But the thing is that people have to make the decision for their own lifestyle and their own community that they live in. And you're right. The changes that happen as a result of an election are minor. It's more of what is the combined mix. Because I have a saying here, and I'm going to repeat this because I've used it every candidate forum or every candidate interview. The select board is currently 2 down in 2024. 2 former selectmen have been replaced. Now we have 2 to go in 2025. We need 2 responsible candidates to come out of the 7 to represent the needs of our town with majority authority. And my quote after that is, 4 out of 5 makes a great vote. That's what we need. But 3 out of 5 is a respectable vote. Because I know when I was on the board, when it became 3 out of 5, it was very receptive to the audience and to the residents. Now, these 7 individuals are competing, and we need to recognize their qualities. And I would respectfully ask that you take a look at the old shows in April, and the forum at the library, because that was very instructive. A lot of people showed up at that forum.
Yeah.
So they want that knowledge, but it's not being we need a soapbox down in the square and have them come up and say what they mean.
I should have checked the website there, because I mean I checked earlier in the week and it was like 310 people had watched on demand that forum at the library, and then there was another 200 that watched your shows with the other candidates. So, but that's not, when you have 4,000 people voting, you got to ask yourself, if only 300 people are watching this stuff and reading this stuff, well, where are they getting their information?
Yep.
You can't make a good decision if you don't have good information. And so what is it?
And that's
people
why
mostly are looking and going with emotion. See, that's the culture. Our culture works on emotion. They have no clue what truth, facts, and reality are. Okay, and so we need to have a ollie income free. We used to do that when we were kids. Right? Let's really talk about what's going on here, people. Okay.
Well, this is the reason why we're spending so much time in educating through our presentations on the topics of the town news, Jim's table topics, and the forum that was presented. So we need an educated voter block, and hopefully that comes through, because we have this year, I know that we have made a good start at educating our voters. So the other race that's happening, and I just don't want to omit that because it is a race that it's an elected position to the school committee. And what we have this year is Gabe Lopes, who is the chairman currently of the school committee, is running for re-election, and he had a late start. I guess he made the decision at the last moment. But we also have a young man, Maxwell Brandon Rudin, and I have his flyer here. He has stepped up and is seeking the one seat for this year, and this is Mr. Gabe Lopes' seat.
Right.
So hopefully, the Danvers Max Rudin is looking for more transparency, stronger education, and voice for the students. Now, he's a young man.
Well, actually, I mean, I would think that he's overly qualified to be a school committee member, because he's a recent graduate of Danvers High. I don't know what yet, but he went to college and he was in the military, so he's young enough to wear both hats. He knows what's going on in the schools, and he knows what the leadership should be doing to address these things. And I think that he would be a great fit, because again, people that are in the machine get stuck in their ruts and they don't want to get out. Sometimes they are the rut. So the ruts there, and then and like you say, they just keep going, and they will not change. We need change, and just not change for change's sakes. I loathe change for change's sakes, but we need to. We've had a lot of progress, some good, some bad. We have to get rid of the bad and focus on the good, and keep moving forward. The kids are suffering. Well, the whole nation is. We used to be number one in the what do you call it?
The region.
No, the global community of countries. We were the number one country, the smartest country in the world. Now we're down to number 35 or 36, and now so out of the 350 school systems in Massachusetts, we're fighting to get up. We're not even halfway to the bottom of the barrel. We gotta stop the stupidity. And but we're certified and we got the accreditation. Oh, it's just another rut. All that stuff is just another rut.
Well, you have heard my comments in regards to what's happening with our school system. And our school system in the town of Danvers and in the state of Massachusetts has been abducted by the Department of Education for the state of Massachusetts, and they are the ones that are controlling what's being taught in the classes and how it is being taught in the classes.
You mean like one size fits all education?
Absolutely.
One size fits all zoning?
And
one size fits all traffic patterns like 128 and Route 62?
So
one size fits all, it works. How can we go wrong?
what I want to do is encourage Max Rudin to explore the functions that he will have to endure during the school committee meetings, because I've stopped going to them because it is like pulling teeth, and nobody wants to say anything because they're afraid and they will be criticized for it. Well, it's time that somebody stand up and defend the schools, because right now I can't do that.
We have to upset the apple cart.
There you go. So this is our election that's coming in the town, and it's on May 6th, and it's at the high school, and it is from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m., and we encourage everybody to go because it's a lot of fun, because you meet your neighbors finally. Some neighbors I don't even know in my neighborhood anymore because they've changed so often. So, one thing that I wanted to talk about is after this, there's several issues, and I'll just list them because we'll get to them as we go along, as we have time. Current stories.
Well, wait a minute. Before we get off the elections,
Yes.
there's a whole bunch of town meeting members on the ballot. Okay, some of them don't even have races, but I would just urge everyone to call up your town meeting member and find out where they stand on these issues that concern you, like the zoning, like the traffic, and the schools, and whatever, and find out what they're doing to help out with these problems. Because we need to get new people in there, because they're in, the town meeting is just one big rut that says rubber stamp, because they, out of all the times we've had meetings, a couple of people get up and speak and say no, but for the majority is yeah, whatever they say, they just rubber stamp whatever the selectmen and the FinCom send down. Once in a great while there's a change, but not really.
That's the easy way out.
Easy way out.
So, I will come back to my final subject for this segment, is the town charter review and the town manager review and the evaluation of the type of government we want or we need. That is something that's going on. Very few people know that it's even happening. But there are town meeting members, and Sally Calhoun, who's leading this investigation or evaluation. I've attended the initial meetings. However, this week, I went to a meeting that was held at the senior center, and you know what? They haven't got very far because they don't really understand how this government works. I believe that they need some guidance from somebody that knows how government really works. And the thing is, I sat through an hour of that meeting. I was going to stay and comment during the public comment, but their public comment is at the end of the meeting before you leave. And I just didn't have the stomach to listen to what was going on. So I will pursue this matter because that's something that I have always been very encouraged about, because this is the first year since 1993 or 94 that is being evaluated. Dan Bennett finally succumbed to my requests because I've placed these on town warrants, and they've always been defeated, but now we have one. But we need to reap the benefits of this evaluation, because we need to know how the townspeople feel about our government. So we'll be reaching out on the show on that, because that is not going to be completed for this town meeting. It will be extended until maybe the special town meeting in October or November, but it may even go till the following year, because it is very extensive, and they have done a decent job reviewing it, but they need to express that to the selectmen and to the town meeting people.
Well, I mean, I paid attention in the beginning to that. They had a bunch of people come in and give presentations for the pros and cons of having, the city government versus town government versus, limited town meeting versus open town meeting versus, just instead of having town meeting, have, I forget what they call them, but it's like the city with having select
Council.
City councilors
Yeah.
have just 9 or 10 representatives for the town meeting, and then they can just do, instead of having a town meeting twice a year, you can do business every month, because you have a smaller sampling of representatives, and still be a town as opposed to a city. There's a lot of things people can do, but again, the thing is, and once you have a committee like this, they should be able to do whatever they think is best for the town. They should be able to make changes, and I would like to see what the experience level of each one of these people that are on the committee are, because a lot of them are kind of like new.
Some of them have
That's
just
so
been
new.
elected.
Yeah, and some of them don't have any, more than 10 years or so, and some of them are 5.
Some of them are 1.
Yeah, most of them are 1. But.
Well, the thing is that you and I have been involved in the reviews of many different items, but one of the big things is that the selectmen, and I have submitted my comments in writing, and I don't know how much of that they've taken, but former Finance Committee woman and long-term participant is doing a great job. She needs public participation. Prepare for the interviews from long-term selectmen and select women who have been omitted from the process. Town charter review. Why are we instructed to perform this review? The one thing that I mentioned to them, and that's being repeated, is that we have a strong town manager act, but a very weak selectman positions, because the selectmen, or the select board, I should forgive me for mixing it up, but this is multi-sex organization. The select board is delegating all of their responsibility for policies and procedures to the town manager. The town manager is an employee of the town and not a elected official similar to a mayor. And that's where our new town manager, Jill Cahill, is coming from a mayoral type government where the council really dictates what the mayor does, and she is the administrator for the mayor. She's doing the day-to-day activities, but the problem we've had in the past is that our town managers have sort of stepped into a position, a void, where they became mayors, they became elected, and they were making decisions for the Board of Selectmen. And the selectmen liked it because they didn't have to face any music. So I have.
That's not the way to run a railroad. I
That-
mean, because
that's
when you
right.
look at, okay, so just see your point in the process you just listed. The mayor is elected, so he's elected on the platforms and the policies that he was running on, and then he tells his chief of staff or whatever she is, the
Right.
chief administrator,
Administrator.
to implement those things, and then she drives all the department heads and manages to do, this is what we're doing, and make it happen, because that's how it works in the real world. So, but now the selectmen are like the mayor, and that's supposed to be telling the town manager is like the clerk or the administrator saying, this is what we're doing. The selectmen should be saying, this is what we're doing to the town manager. Now make it happen.
Yeah, but
Not-
the
not
the
the other way
selectmen
around.
are very weak in their positions because they can't agree on anything because they really don't know the town. And there are pockets of resistance all over town, and what they need to do is understand what the culture of the town is.
The culture is, it's my way or the highway. That's what it is. I got my 3 votes, and we're going to do whatever the heck we want.
Well, that seems
Okay?
that's the
the way it is.
problem.
I mean, you know, we used to be able to take turns. When you were the selectman, whoever was going to be reelected or they would be the chairman for that year. Wasn't that the way it worked?
Yeah.
Did they ever let Maureen be the chair? No. Oh, we can't do that now because it's such a high profile and there's so much legality. You know what? They just make it up as they go to fit their little egos. That's all it is. And we need to get them out of their ruts. They're just sitting up there pontificating. And they, you know why? They love it so much. Gardner's, he has to, I gotta get back. Is he doing it for himself or the town?
Well, that's a different issue. I'm not going to get into that. But what I want to do is point out a couple of other items because this is something that we're going to have to talk about
Yeah.
in May, June, and July, because that's the slow time for the Board of Selectmen, because they don't want to do anything in the summertime. But I will continue. Town manager controls too many committee appointments, which is very true. Town manager is responsible for department organization and the structure. Well, that's fine. That's an administrative type function. Town manager residency requirement should stay. And they have decided, and I don't know whether it's firmed up or not, but to retain it because that is a good thing for the town because the town manager is actually part of the residents. And he knows or she knows what's going on. Municipal Light Board. Operating function of the Municipal Light Board should be and is to the taxpayers in Danvers, not to the manager, because that's what is being used as. Other enterprise funds, water and sewer, town, dump backfilling. Oh, as a matter of fact, this last selectmen's meeting, I was in a position to argue the resolution that was going to be sent to the Beverly Airport regarding the impacts that we as residents of Danvers have incurred since 5-6 years ago. And even before that. But I have been preaching the resolution that needs to be sent to the mayor and to the FAA and everybody else because nobody seems to be listening to the residents. However, at that same meeting, there was a letter or a report sent in by the engineering department to the acting town manager about the backfill and the costs and the plans for the solar panel arrays that are going to be constructed at the dump.
Mm-hmm.
And that is becoming a $12 million business. And is that authorized by the selectmen? I think so. But the town manager went ahead and did it. So, but there is a report, and I will be putting that out to the public very soon. Town meeting has lost the effectiveness of being informed and is lacking focus on participation. One of the items that has been discussed at this review committee is how can we improve the involvement of town meeting members? What we can do, and I think that's what's coming down the pike, they want to reduce the number of town meeting members per precinct, and also find a way to expunge the people that are not showing up at the meetings. Because why have they been elected? The only problem is elections have consequences, and we can't.
Yeah, they're elected. They can't expunge them. But again, all that stuff. Again, if voters, they make bad decisions if they have bad information. They need to find out what these town meeting members are doing, what they're for. I was at one of the meetings there, and I did say, yeah, we used to have 12 town meeting members per precinct. Was it 12?
Now it's 18.
Now it's 18. I said, 9 or 12, whatever I think it was 12. So 12 is fine. 18 is too many.
Yeah.
And we should cut it back. And we need to make sure that that the people have a fair understanding of what they're voting for, because they don't. And it's very hard. Like when I do Jimmy the Pollock's cheat sheet.
Watch that.
I can't say that?
No.
I can't?
That's offensive to me.
I grew up on Liberty Street. That's where all the Pollocks were in Danvers.
That's fine.
Okay, so look at, and so, there's only a couple of races for the town meeting members, but, so I usually just leave them blank when I think, those are the people that just.
It's a repeat performance for most
And I'll just
of them.
highlight the people that we really need to get in there.
Okay.
If you want some change and some
Well, let's
intelligent discussion.
We can have that on your show if you want. The other items, I have the Finance Committee has significant power, but the thing is they divert to the political issues that are going on with the warrant articles or the budgets or the selectmen.
Mm-hmm.
They should concentrate on the financial items that need to be explored. Where is the money coming from? Where is the money going to? That's what the Finance Committee should be looking at.
The Finance Committee should be more like Doge.
Yeah. Well, they have the power.
Let's go down there. I mean, the way the budget's written, it's just the high level. They're not getting into the weeds that we need to see.
Well, I'm just going to go through quickly.
Okay,
Budget Conference Committee is useful tool and needs consequences of what they determine. The town manager used the Budget Conference Committee this last year to increase the costs of our trash collection, because that should not have been done on the tax collection like he wanted. It's already been on the real estate tax rolls. Why not? Town meeting attendance, participation, we're going back to that. Electronic vote counting and attendance reporting. That's something that I brought up 2 years ago.
Yep.
They don't want it
Yeah.
because that is something that's going to control the town moderator's powers.
And that was interesting because there was someone at the town meeting when you brought that up that gave two specific instances where we took voice count votes and the moderator said it passes, and then someone said I want a standing count or a roll call vote, and when it came back, no, it wasn't a pass. They failed.
Right.
So it's not a very effective method to, and depending on where you're sitting, and like I'm kind of deaf from, the rock and roll in the 60s and 70s. Jackhammers.
You have
and
selective hearing.
so
All right, one more thing, a couple of more things here. Town accountant.
Mm-hmm.
They want to eliminate that position. That is a legal position by the laws of state of Massachusetts. That is the only person that really has the voice to object to spending some of these funds. And she's supposed to be, or he, supposed to be the watchdog of the
books.
treasurer and the books. That's right.
I mean, it's almost like a constant audit. You always need to audit the books to make sure that things are what they are.
Recall petition is going in, but it's getting tweaked. So I am concerned about that. Town clerk's office and responsibilities. Who is the appointing authority? Now, right now, it's the town manager. Now, town clerk is a very effective position, and in the past, I believe it was by the Board of Selectmen.
Well, that was one of the things that they brought up, that certain boards or certain appointees should, in other towns, the town clerk is an elected position.
Well, for the next show that will be coming up, I am going to request the preliminary report that they are planning on reviewing. They started reviewing that.
And also, some of these appointed boards, like you said, like the zoning board and the planning board and this, at least one or two of those should be elected as opposed to appointed. That was one of the things that was brought up, and whether they actually put that in there or not, I advocated for that it should be, but.
Well, one of the other things that I insisted on, and Sally was very receptive to that, is consultation with former or even current elected official to determine what were the issues that impacted their terms of office and the direction of our town. That is, well, the list that they have used, that I have identified, is, the current board, and then I had Peter Zook, Ken Brown, Pat Frazier, Pam Bartlett, John Webb, Ken Hersey.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things you brought up during some of these discussions, was that, especially with the police, that we used to get statistics with all the departments.
Yep.
How many calls, how many of this, how many of that. There was statistics, so you knew what was going on. And we don't see those anymore in many of the departments. The police brought it back now because of the Ducky incident, and so that's been posted on Facebook, and it's kind of interesting to see what's happening here.
Well, the thing is, it should never have been eliminated, because what they blamed that on is staffing levels that they couldn't fill. Where are the savings that they haven't filled? So we are paying.
It's a basic management function.
That's right.
I mean, it's like, hey, list me 5 things you did last week.
Well,
how about I just list you 5 things I did this morning?
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
in a week, there's like 500.
Yeah,
You got to be kidding me.
Well, Jim, I think what I want to do is wrap this thing up, because I think we want to focus on the elections, and this is what we have been doing the whole hour, and we're almost out of time. But I want to do is our turkeys. I haven't got a name.
No name for the turkeys, huh?
No name this month for the turkeys. And the thing is, what I would like to do is give the turkey a name. This one is going to be Steve Bartha, and he's already gone, so the turkey is turkey. And this one, I don't know whether to go to the planning department, because they have done a job on our zoning, on our planning, and this one is going to be the planning department.
Well, I mean,
I'm laughing.
I'm laughing because in my mind, my mind doesn't work like anyone else's. But I'm thinking, talk about political savvy, political acumen, political understanding. When you have two incumbents running, and you got 2 or 3 people already running, if you watered down the field by getting in, and it just makes it worse. So all these Johnny-come-latelys, I'm sorry, they're just they should get the turkeys for watering down the vote before it even takes place.
Well, I hope that
and if the shoe fits, wear it. You know who you are.
The voters in this town have to wake up and then select the best of our select board.
Yeah.
And because we need action, we don't need excuses like we've had over the last 10 years, basically.
You know what? We got 57 seconds left, and we're gonna get what we vote for.
That's right. Our government is what we elect.
There you go. And don't complain.
So go out and vote on May 6th at the high school, and I will be there with my camera. I will not have any sound on the inside because I got chastised for that.
Very good.
But I will have film, and then I'll have voice on the outside and interview some of the candidates and the voters.
All right.
So look forward to seeing everyone, and thank you for listening, and thank you for participating with us, and I will bring you up to date on the other subjects later on in the month.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you.
Really